Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, One Piece is a story about freedom, and we largely follow characters who are ambitious enough to pursue it. Yet, it comes at a price. The story of One Piece is littered with children who don't know their father. We have yet to see a legitimate conversation between Monkey D. Luffy, the main character of the story, and his father, Monkey D. Dragon. And Luffy's relationship with his grandfather isn't much better. You could almost classify this as a theme of the story, and Oda introduced it pretty early on with Usopp, and his father, a member of Shanks' pirate crew, Yasopp. One Piece strikes this very weird dynamic where we fall in love with characters who make decisions which, in the real world, would be hard to reconcile. And it manages this, I think, in most cases, because the characters themselves don't seem to hold this grudge, even though they justifiably could. We follow the Straw Hats, who are freedom lovers themselves. It's fitting that Usopp and Luffy, although abandoned by their fathers, would understand best the pursuit of dreams. Like, straight up, Usopp doesn't despise Yasopp, he idolizes him. But it's just insane how much thought Oda put forth to family in the story, and it seems as if every major character, Oda has something to say. Robin and Frankie are very similar to Usopp and Luffy. For all intents and purposes, their parents dumped them to pursue their own interests. And this is just how it goes with biological family the majority of the time. But of course, biological family isn't the only kind of family, and we see this echoed with characters like Sanji and Nami. Sanji's story in Whole Cake Island was probably the most direct portrayal of this, where Oda was most explicit about his thoughts. But in no way does Sanji consider the Vinsmokes to be his family. Although this is different from all the other examples that we've talked about, it's also the same, that the Vinsmokes essentially abandoned Sanji in order to pursue their own dreams. It's somewhat convoluted, but they considered Sanji to be a waste of time. You'll of course never hear Dragon say this in the story, but you can presume it to be true. Luffy was a waste of Dragon's time. Now of course the possibility exists that Oda has Dragon say that he did this to protect Luffy. But to me, this would be a lame justification, not really within Dragon's character to say. Luffy wouldn't care in the first place, and I, as a reader, would basically think that this is BS. There were things that you simply were more interested in doing. But this is another consistent within the story of One Piece, is the family that you choose often perform the role that you need them to. Zeff was Sanji's father, and without question, Zeff performed that duty. Even though Wano is over, it's still kind of interesting to talk about Zoro and his family. Right? I mean, this was set up for an absurdly long time, something that the community predicted pretty much on the nose, that Zoro's ancestry related to Wano. His family was from Wano, and we were waiting with bated breath for it to come up in the story, but it never did. Oda instead confirmed things that we already believed in SBS. This had a lot of people disappointed, myself included. We've discussed possible reasons for this in the past, but the simple truth that you must accept is that Oda did not consider this reveal to be all that significant. Oda didn't find this moment important enough to include in the story, which is more predictable than you would think that it is. Zoro's father is Koshiro. We have met him, and he is in the East Blue. Zoro's family is the Straw Hats. We're following their journey. These people who he is biologically related to don't matter. That is what the story actually tells us. And you can be assured that for Zoro himself, he's never spared a thought for it. So in a way, you can argue Oda's decision here is actually very fitting, even if it is still disappointing. The moment where it is revealed that Zoro is descended from royalty and Wano is pure fan service, nothing more. The effect it would have on the story afterwards is zero, which in my opinion is likely why it was cut. But anyway, you have these little stories about family, biological or not in the story, but even outside the Straw Hats as well is a big concept with Ace. Whitebeard was his father, the father that he chose. The only thing Roger did was leave him with a burden. And Ace is unique in the sense that he's one of the few characters in the story that actually desired to have a father, a real father, a present father. And this desire manifested into resentment for Gold Roger, who, like many other fathers in the story, wasn't there, even though his shadow loomed over Ace's life. When you compare this to somebody like Luffy, there's a pretty stark difference. And I think what Oda is suggesting here, and maybe the reason why Ace died and was never capable of being the person Roger was looking for, is Ace didn't value freedom in the same way that Luffy does. Ace isn't looking to be free. This is metaphorically depicted as Ace is chained up before his execution in Marineford. He's literally not free, and he doesn't fight it. So his personal freedom seems to matter much less to him. Or if he is, it's in a very specific way, for instance, free of the expectations and legacy of his father. And in this respect, you could argue that death is a kind of freedom, and you wonder if this is a relevant conversation with Ace. Like Robin in Enies Lobby or Kaido-esque. The last thing that Ace tells Luffy is "thank you for loving me," and I feel like Ace is really a commentary about children who grow up without parents. A far more genuine depiction than that of Luffy. More than anything, Ace wanted to be loved. But you know, the other half to this conversation, which is totally unrelated to this video, but we're going to talk about it anyway, is the fact that Ace probably found what he was looking for at sea. The adventure, the reason he set out, was to find somebody that he could call his father. Somebody he could look up to and idolized, who loved him. In a sense, Whitebeard was Ace's treasure, his One Piece. So it makes more sense, right, why Ace turned around. But as I said, the concept of family is important to the story, and Oda really utilized it when it came to the original Yonko. A few months or years ago, I might have even excluded Shanks, but now we're getting reveals of him potentially being part of the Figureland family, meeting potentially a family member, maybe his father in Garling, and this likely having some effect on the story, on Shanks' story. We made a video on this recently, but I think that Shanks has been burdened in a way similar to Ace, by the mere knowledge of who his father is, and the destiny this suggests. I think that something related to this adds more meaning to Film Red. Shanks found and raised Uta in the very same way that Roger found and raised Shanks. But ultimately, he abandoned her. Really, all we can do is speculate, but at the end of Film Red, Shanks declares Uta his daughter, and I don't think that he abandoned her because he didn't love her and didn't want to be her father. I actually tend to think that Shanks finds himself unworthy, which is the very same reason that he didn't try to eat the Gomu Gomu no Mi and carry on Roger's legacy. He of course justifies it as an action which was done for the sake of Uta, that Uta would feel guilty for her actions. But I really think that in another universe, Shanks knows better if he simply values himself, his role in Uta's life more. Ultimately, Shanks was capable of leaving her behind, and that says a lot by itself. But like we said, this conversation is not just exclusive to Shanks, it's related to all of the Yonko. Big Mom represents the biological parent, and she has 100 children. Just the same as all the top tier pirates, or basically all the pirates in the story, Big Mom is selfish. She's ambitious, she has big dreams. And those dreams aren't about being a mother itself. She simply wants people to love her. She wants people to listen to her. And she is afraid to be abandoned, and believes that blood relations would strengthen this bond. Very obviously, Big Mom has not read One Piece. This is a commentary on oppressive parents. Those who micromanage every aspect of their children's life for their own gain, even as their brain twists and nuts to believe it's for the children. Big Mom is so interesting because she was betrayed by her parents, but ultimately her parents made the very same decision that Big Mom makes her whole life. Herself over her children. The irony is truly painful. And on the flip side, almost exactly opposite, you have the Whitebeard pirates. Whitebeard, all of his crew, they're not his real children. But his end goal was absolutely a real family. It's the same commentary over and over again. Big Mom has real children, but those real children are not her treasure. Whitebeard has a bunch of adopted children who are absolutely his treasure. Whitebeard is betrayed by Squardo and Marineford, and what does he do? He embraces him. You are a fool, but I still love you. Big Mom is betrayed, and it's grounds for murder. But I'll be honest guys, this video, we've talked about a lot of things so far, but really the inspiration from it actually comes from Kaido. What I wanted to do is I wanted to discuss the relationship between Kaido and Yamato. And as I sort of pieced together my thoughts here, I found that Kaido's story is more related to family than meets the eye. The same as all of the other Yonko. And in it I wonder whether or not I actually respect Kaido more than most of the other fathers, if not all the other fathers, real fathers, biological fathers in the entire story. I absolutely think that there's similarities between Kaido and Big Mom. Big Mom's theme of mother knows best, oppressive, suffocating. She doesn't let her children breathe. And I think that you see this reflected in Kaido's story with Yamato. What Yamato actually wants is of very little importance to Kaido. Just the same as Big Mom with her children, Kaido seems to be planning out Yamato's life. But there's also differences as well. I never really got the impression that Big Mom really cares about her children other than their existence and how they saw her. Literally everything is about Big Mom. I think Kaido has a genuine interest in Yamato, something that extends beyond Kaido himself. Kaido wants Yamato to grow. I think that the overall perception of Kaido as a father is incredibly negative, but a comparison with a character like Garp, I think makes you question how you feel about Kaido, and whether your feelings are justified. Garp played a parental role in Luffy's life, and what this amounted to is dropping him in the forest somewhere and saying, hey man, go survive. I don't find it to be different than what Kaido did with Yamato. Or if there is a difference, it's simply narrative portrayal. Yamato was more hurt by Kaido's actions than Luffy was hurt by Garp's. Even though both children, both Luffy and Yamato, were beaten, Kaido and Garp were similarly motivated to impress their worldview upon their children. Garp wanted Luffy to become strong and didn't want him to become a pirate, and all of his parental actions in the story reflect this. You might say that Big Mom is similar, and maybe that's true to an extent, but everything is Big Mom centric, whereas you get the sense that Garp is actually trying to teach Luffy something, to set him on the right path, to eventually be free to follow in Garp's footsteps. Kaido is also trying to teach Yamato something based on Kaido's own life experience. And the central thing which defines Kaido is that Kaido lacks hope. Freedom as a concept is only earned by those who are strong enough to obtain it. And the world is cruel and not worth saving. It's not worth having friends. In Kaido's own words, friendship is a sham. It's all for show. Deep down, they fear you. You must rule with strength. You are the child of ogres. You are not meant to be friends with humans. I think that it's very natural for a parent to want to teach their children things that they've learned over the course of their life. Share their wisdom. And although Kaido was wrong, this is what he was doing. And at the same time, it's natural for a child to have hope, to have aspirations and dreams. We aren't born cynical. So the child Yamato did not choose the worldview of Kaido. They instead chose the worldview of Odin. Odin's journal was a sort of holy text, a Bible. And by its very nature, it contained hope. It foretold the arrival of Joy Boy and that of Kaido's defeat. It spoke of a wondrous past and an incredible future. Like other characters in the story, I tend to believe that Yamato chose their father. And although it's somewhat different, it's interesting that Yamato took Odin's name. But for me, there's still a delineating point, which is if you compare Kaido to, for instance, Monkey D. Dragon to Yasopp, Kaido actually tried to be Yamato's father, in the only way that he knew how. Wrong or not in the attempt, I think you can have some respect for that. The pain and damage that Kaido had accumulated over his life, he wanted to spare Yamato from this. I think that you can respect that Kaido cared about Yamato at all. This is one thing as I reread Wano that's very clear. Kaido doesn't care about anybody. Literally nobody, except for Yamato. And although we're given the impression that Kaido would kill Yamato, which is probably true, I wonder how easy it was or would have been for him. As they fight up on the rooftop, Yamato stalls Kaido as an important moment in the story, and I wonder if Kaido is really trying to win. It should be noted that there is definitely a difference between Garp and Kaido despite all the similarities, and really that difference is that Kaido put handcuffs. He chained Yamato, which is something Garp never did for Luffy, despite Luffy making it abundantly clear what he intended on becoming. And maybe you can use these handcuffs, which Yamato initially speculates, like, would Kaido actually kill me? Are these really going to explode like he says? And then we find out when Luffy removes them, yes, they do explode. So maybe this is confirmation to you that, no, Kaido never cared about Yamato, and would kill Yamato in a heartbeat. But I think another critical difference between Garp and Kaido is that Kaido truly believes that death is a preferred alternative than living without the strength to be free. Essentially, Kaido was testing Yamato, providing inspiration for Yamato to grow. We know that top-tier hockey users can remove these cuffs without an issue. Either you get strong enough to seize your own freedom, or you die. This is Kaido's worldview. And I do believe that what Kaido did with the handcuffs is very different to their fight on the rooftop, and Kaido personally being the one responsible with his own hands for Yamato's death. Like it or not, whether it was intentional or not, Kaido does inspire those around him to grow. Because deep down, I think Kaido knows that he's the villain. Remember guys, Kaido wasn't always like this. There was a time in his past, in his youth, where Kaido possibly believed that he could be Joy Boy. Kaido wasn't always absent of hope. Guys, I think that there's a lot of similarity between Kaido and Fisher Tiger. Fisher Tiger is in essence Kaido's story, but cut short, within a universe where Fisher Tiger is the only one of his kind. A universe where Kaido is not totally indestructible and continues to exist, festering hatred. We see this struggle planted on Fisher Tiger's face as he dies. Essentially, Fisher Tiger knows what is right. He believes in Otohime's message. He understands the desire for peace and wants to protect the children from a past and from rage that they do not know. He fears the demon inside of him. There is an internal battle between what he believes and what he wants, and we are given the impression that Fisher Tiger is close to breaking. Oda introduces a really interesting concept with the Sun Pirates and a philosophy that Fisher Tiger believes that their one rule, really, is to not kill the humans. To kill them would set them along a path of becoming them. This is the thing that must be avoided at all costs. I do believe we actually witnessed the moment which would have changed Fisher Tiger's future forever. But rather than embrace what he was becoming and succumb to the demon, Fisher Tiger instead chose to die. Something Kaido attempted in numerous occasions but could never successfully accomplish. So yeah, in essence, Kaido is the bad future Fisher Tiger. We see in a conversation with Yamato, Kaido specifically mentions a grudge that he has against humans, based on his race. He says, they fear you. And a lot of the Fishman's story is about fishmen being physically superior. Kaido feeds the people of Wano Smile Devil Fruits, which suppress all emotions except for a smile, and in Fisher Tiger's flashback we see that he encounters a young slave koala who is doing this very same thing on purpose. Tiger swallows his hatred and breaks her out of it, where Kaido uses it to break people, in essence becoming just like the celestial dragons and what they did to Koala. Kaido was what Tiger feared becoming. He feared it because it was possible. And so Kaido's relationship with Yamato was emblematic of these very same themes. While Otohime and Fisher Tiger wanted to spare the children of their pain and their hatred, Kaido intentionally taught it. And this, more than anything else, is what defines him as a parent. I think Kaido reached a point where he simply hoped that someone would be strong enough to stop him, to save him from himself. And I think this is why Kaido took an interest in the legend of Joy Boy. The man could no longer believe and hope, even though he really wanted to. If the world had any justice whatsoever, then the world would conjure Joy Boy, a force powerful enough to defeat him. And if it couldn't, then he was right, and everything that he had learned and tried to teach to Yamato. But anyway, guys, kind of an abstract video essay here today, but I thought that it was really interesting. As always, I'm curious as to what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember to check out my book, The Booms. Volume 1 and 2 is out. 3 will be very soon. If you like videos like this, you might like The Booms. And if you happen to read it, please leave a review. Like the video, subscribe, click the bell to be notified, join the squad, and as always, guys, have a wonderful day.